All right, everyone. It is June the 20th, 2012, and let's go into the World War III prophecy war room once again. And we know this story right here. Iran, Russia, China, Syria plan massive war game. Now, coming out of Russia, I don't have the article up here. I believe it was yesterday. Some top Russian officials said that is ludicrous to think that they are going to be performing some massive war game with Iran and China. It's a hoax. It's not real. But are we talking about propaganda? Iran, Russia, China, and Syria will hold the Middle East's largest ever war game, Iranian news outlet reported, quoting unnamed sources. According to the report, 90,000 troops, 400 warplanes, and 1,000 tanks from the four countries will take part in land and sea exercises. The war games will feature Russian atomic submarines, according to Iranian media, as well as warships, aircraft carriers, and mine-clearing destroyers. Now, our next story, and this is what I'm bringing you right now. Obama and Putin meet. The two men barely even look at each other, let alone make eye contact. Let me bring you this story and I'll play this video for you. CBS reports that when Barack Obama and Vladimir Putin met with the press after their long private discussion, the two men barely looked at each other. You could just feel, sort of, the tension between them. And the body language really represented how far apart the two leaders remain on the issue of Syria. It is clear that President Obama did not get an agreement from Russian President Putin on Syria, CBS reports. And interestingly, CBS adds, apparently President Obama got a bit of a lecture from Putin about some other failed transitions that are going on around the world. I'm going to come back. We're going to take a look at this when we play the video. Now, we know about this. Most of you do anyway. Britain stops Russian ship carrying attack helicopters for Syria. We're going to come back to that. I'll play that. And what I understand is the ship was had already made its delivery and was on its way back when Britain stopped that. But I haven't seen this video yet. Let's take a look at what went on between Obama and Putin in their meeting.
As the G20 Economic Summit wraps up in Mexico this afternoon, President Obama and other world leaders are set to call for more efforts to improve economic growth and to create new jobs.
On Monday, Mr. Obama met with Russian President Vladimir Putin to discuss several issues, including the uprising in Syria. Nora O'Donnell is traveling with the president in Los Cabos, Mexico. Nora, what do we know about Putin and Obama?
Well, good morning. It was their first face-to-face meeting since Vladimir Putin regained power, and the meeting lasted nearly 2 hours. As one top advisor to the president said, they started talking about Syria, and they didn't want to stop talking about Syria. But it was so interesting in their remarks after their meeting, the two men barely looked at each other. You could just feel sort of the tension between them, and the body language really represented how far apart the two leaders remain on the issue of Syria. Now, they said that they both support some political transition, but it's clear that President Obama did not get an agreement from Russian President Putin to push Bashar al-Assad out of power. That's what the U.S. wants. They think that's the way to end the violence in Syria. And interestingly, apparently, President Obama got a bit of a lecture from Putin about some other failed transitions that are going on around the world. The issue for Russia, of course, they blocked two UN Security Council resolutions, is that they have an important strategic foothold in Syria. That is their one foothold in the Middle East. It's the port there and the port of Tartus. U.S. intelligence officials believe that there is already a ship on the way to that port carrying some attack helicopters that could be used to silence the opposition. We've also learned there are other two ships in the Black Sea, a Russian port that may be headed to Syria with some arms and ammunition. So this is heating up. That meeting was clearly very tense. It's not clear how productive the meeting was in the end, Charlie.
Now, the news reporter doesn't mention, bear with me a second, doesn't mention this, the Iran, Russia, China, Syria plan, massive war games. That wasn't mentioned. Let's go take a look here at what happened yesterday. Britain stops Russian ship carrying attack helicopters for Syria. A Russian ship believed to be carrying helicopters and missiles for Syria has been effectively stopped in its tracks off the coast of Scotland after its insurance was canceled at the behest of the British government. Mail. Now, I'm not sure, I haven't watched this video yet, but what I read yesterday was that the ship had already made its delivery when it was stopped. Let's see. I could be wrong. Could be wrong information. Let's listen.
I think the Russian hand has been pretty well exposed already. I think this is a good tool for the Americans and the British, who are obviously very critical of the way the Russians have reacted to the Syrian crisis, to say, you know, look, this support isn't just political. It isn't just a sort of a cover, if you like. It isn't just diplomatic cover. This is a very real cooperation between Russia and Syria. When Russia and its ally China in this aspect say we are opposed to all forms of intervention in this crisis, we don't think that intervention in this crisis is going to assist the chance of a peaceful outcome. It shows, you know, the British, Americans, and others, and the Syrian rebels can turn around and say, you know, who's intervening in the crisis here? Who's pouring fuel on the flames? You know, if you're providing attack helicopters to the Syrians, how can you possibly say you're not intervening in the crisis? We're certainly a step closer down the road to some form of Western intervention. I don't think at this stage it will be like Libya last year. It won't be a fully fledged military operation. The British and the Americans are now talking and indeed engaging with countries like Saudi and Qatar that are helping the rebels. There are now more arms getting into Syria with American help, and I think that will, you know, gradually there'll be a gradual sort of increment month by month of that. I don't think we're going to get it to a make or break situation with Western intervention for the next 3 or 4 months. But I think after that, you know, you could see no-fly zones, you could see humanitarian corridors, you could see some form of Western engagement.
I think you can see some form of Western engagement if they hold these mock war games, Russia, China, and Iran. I don't see 3 or 4 months down the line them putting up a no-fly zone. I'm looking at Bible prophecy. I'm looking at the tribulation. I'm looking at a world war about to break out. And it reminds me of the article I did not too long ago where an email, a leaked information from a Pentagon official that if you are in the United States come July, you better leave, because after July you're not going to get out of here. Something to just remind you about. U.S. warns Egypt's military over power grab. Let's listen.
It was meant to be a declaration defining the role of the president, but it's more like solidifying the military's power. In a news conference, the unelected ruling military council, or SCAF, laid out their new laws. Essentially, the army says it will be its own boss. The new president will not be commander-in-chief. SCAF has given itself control over the budget, and in the absence of a sitting parliament, the military council will retain what it calls limited legislative power.
Rights groups and revolutionary forces describe the amendments as a consolidation of military rule, legalizing a process that began last year when the military took over the country. It renders, they argue, completely meaningless the handover to civilian rule, which is meant to take place in just 2 weeks' time.
In an interview with Al Jazeera, head of the SCAF's advisory council said the new president would be transitional.
The upcoming president will occupy the office for a short period of time, whether or not he agrees. His office term will be short despite the huge efforts exerted in the election campaign. This is simply because a new constitution will be drafted, followed by new parliamentary elections to take on the legislative power, and therefore it is not possible in any event for the president to remain in office after a new constitution comes to light.
As the military entrenched their rule on the ground, the Muslim Brotherhood declared their candidate Mohammed Morsi the next president. According to their numbers, Morsi won by about 1 million votes. His opponent, Ahmed Shafi, insists their numbers are incorrect and counting hasn't finished. Official results are expected on Thursday after appeals are considered. Who the next president is may still be unclear, but who will ultimately hold power in the country is. Shireen Tadros, Al Jazeera, Cairo.
All right, that's getting you caught up to date. We got the U.S. Warns Egypt's military over power grab. Washington urges ruling military to transfer full power to civilian government as Muslim Brotherhood calls for protests, and we know what that effect will be on Israel. Britain stops a Russian ship carrying attack helicopters for Syria. Obama and Putin meet. The two men barely even look at each other. Now, what is going to happen if this takes place? Iran, Russia, China, Syria plan massive war games. That's getting caught up for now. End time Bible prophecy. Keep looking up. Keep looking up to the sky. Our redemption draws nigh. God bless. Leave me comment.